What on earth have I just read on social media this morning? Craig Hope exclusive article states that Newcastle were ready to sell Anthony Gordon to Liverpool, but it's now no longer going to happen. Surely not. Straight away, surely not. I'm here in this video to kind of just talk through PSR and how I personally think. Obviously, Craig Hope has received correct information. I personally think straight away that Newcastle United has taught Craig Hope this information. However, I don't think it's true. I think Newcastle United are almost at that stage now where they're trying to... I think Luke Edwards put an example out here. So he believes that Newcastle with the PSR compliances, he thinks Newcastle will just put information out there to make it seem like that we're trying to sell everyone just to reach the PSR regulations, when in reality we're not. In reality, we're just trying to sell the players that we want to sell, and we're going to keep our big names. And I mean, straight away, surely we aren't trying to sell Anthony Gordon. I mean, I couldn't believe that when I read it. I can't imagine we would do that. And even let's say we were a case Newcastle where we were so desperate, we needed to reach these PSR still. If we were at a stage where we're trying to sell Gordon, we're trying to sell this, like we're trying to sell the best player, wouldn't you just rather take the points deduction? For me, I would much rather take the points deduction, because what's the point if you're just going to sell your best players? Because then we're screwed anyway. So I would rather keep your players, take whatever deduction it's going to be, and then just use it to get back up the table. And I would much rather do that if it means we get to keep our best players than it would be if we don't. So I get the impression straight away that Newcastle were almost giving out false information just to fit our agenda, I guess, to make sure that Newcastle are able to have that bit more breathing space where they can sell that player. And this PSR stuff, I am getting sick of saying the word PSR now. I hate it to death. I think it just suffocates the Premier League, and I think it just suffocates English football. And obviously I get that Newcastle need to sell for the 30th of June alongside a few other teams as well. These teams have tried to do it. I know you could argue we cheated somewhat and tried to sell to each other, but we have still attempted to sell players. It's not like teams are just ignoring it. Teams are clearly trying to actually reach the Premier League expectations. But it's Euros are on. They haven't took into consideration that the Euros are on. Surely you should be allowed a bit of an extension period because of that. Euros also being on. It's just hard to sell players because a lot of players have been playing in the Euros, so teams aren't going to want to buy them in case they get injured out there, and because also the fact that they're currently active in the major tournaments. So I can understand how it is tricky, and it just isn't an ideal part of the window. The window has already opened a couple of weeks ago, and it's still at that stage where teams want such a high, considerable amount of money, where our teams just know that during the transfer window, prices are going to fluctuate and drop. So teams are almost reluctant to just not spend. So it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. But this Anthony Gordon stuff, my word, there's absolutely no way we're selling him at Liverpool. Like, Liverpool was a major Premier League rival in terms of being in the league table. Now, I know people aren't the biggest fan of the Daily Mail, or some people might think that Craig Hope is a negative journalist, but for me, I think he's credible. He clearly gets information from the club. His sources, I think, are probably amongst the best, I would say, in terms of Newcastle journalists. And I believe that he's got his information from the club, and I actually think the club is basically lying to everyone so they can stir things around and just make it seem like the Premier League, Newcastle is trying everything to get this PSR sale done, but they're just trying to almost just wait the clock out a little bit. So then when it gets to a time where a good opportunity for a sale comes, the club would then do it. I personally believe that this Gordon article is just to make it seem like Newcastle is trying its absolute most to sell these players, where of course you aren't going to sell Gordon, are you? Especially not to Liverpool as well. Never ever in a million years I think this one's going to happen. And while we're on the topic of that, of course, Isak, that's the second player that's continuing to come out in the news by journalists, where again Chelsea are still inquiring about him, but they just don't have the money to spend them. There's been a second article now by the likes of Keith Downey, by again Craig Hope, where they talk through Isak. They talk through the fact that Chelsea are still inquiring to Newcastle about him, still asking Newcastle about him, but they clearly haven't got the 150 to 200 million pounds that Newcastle would even open their eyes to have a look at him. So for me, never ever going to happen. Wouldn't take that one with too much notice, but it's annoying, isn't it? The one I personally think will leave for PSR, you've seen it already, is Yankuba Minteh. That is the one I'm expecting to go. Again, he's not one of our players per se. He's never played for Newcastle. He he brought in last season £7 million, put out on loans, had a good time at Feyenoord, but the reality is that he's probably still too fresh to play for Newcastle at the minute. Timing's not great, and it's unfortunate because I would love to see this player go back out on loan again, develop, or even if it's just a case where he's inside Newcastle's club, he develops and becomes a better player. We just don't have that time as a luxury because we've got to sell that player as soon as possible. So it looks like he's going to go to potentially Brighton, so that's the next team up swapped up. So he wanted to move to Everton because he wanted to stay in the Premier League. Everton couldn't afford him, so that one's been pulled out. Leon put £40 million in for him according to media. However, he did not want to go to Leon, so you had to respect that. It looks like he wants to stick in the Premier League with Brighton now coming in as a potential option, where the fact that Brighton want him worries me a little bit because Brighton always seem to buy a class talent. So the fact that they want him probably implies to me that this guy actually is going to be very good. But obviously it's horrible really, because the fact is if we sell Yanku Minteh at Brighton, I'm always going to be wishing for the kid's downfall in the most horrible way possible, because obviously I don't want him to do well after we sell him, because it's going to hurt to see. But that's the one I would expect to leave this week. Obviously, can't sell Trippier at the minute because he's out of the Euros. I like Callum Wilson, Miggy. Obviously, Miggy again's out of the Copa America, but Wilson's an interesting one because he actually put out that Instagram story yesterday where it's almost like a Facebook mom would do when they had like a bit of a midlife crisis with their husband. But now, in this case, that's the one that's a bit interesting because, well, obviously with Wilson putting that out, he's clearly a player that I think Newcastle will sell. And the fact he's put that message out almost to say goodbye to people, I think that is a goodbye message, a bit of a weird way of putting it out. But Wilson's someone that doesn't tend to post ever. And so obviously maybe a bit upset at the minute. He might just feeling like, you know what, I need to move elsewhere. But my impression is that Wilson is going to leave. I don't see him staying. And the fact he's put it out a couple of days ago, especially again where you talk about the PSR sales, Newcastle almost desperately trying to sell players, I'm expecting this one to go out the door. But I don't think Newcastle are as desperate as it's made out in social media. I think it's heavily exaggerated is what I will claim about it. Obviously with the Gordon stuff especially, I said it before, I say it again, I don't believe in it. I think it's exaggerated. I think the club is probably almost doing it on purpose to make themselves look like they're doing everything in their power to get rid of these players, when obviously no football team's ever going to operate like that. Even if it's a worst case scenario for us, we could take a points deduction, wouldn't you? There's no way Amanda Stavey murdered, and these top end of the PAF is going to be selling Gordon, especially with the project they want to be on. We're not Mike Ashley anymore. We're not a team that's desperate to make sales. We will make some sales, but we're going to make the smartest ones. And if Newcastle are able to find a loophole to do something that delays time, they're going to do it, and that's what my impression is. But Wilson, I'm expecting to go, and I think the fact he's put that Facebook man message out on his Instagram story indicates that he's probably going to go. So I'm expecting him and Yanku and Minteh to probably move within the next 7 days or so. I know we're supposed to sell before the 30th of June, and we've not got any time left for that, but I probably believe they're going to try and delay it. I think they're going to try and force an extra week or something out of the Premier League. Obviously, I state it again, yes, I'm going to be quite biased to say that, but I don't think it's fair when the 6 teams I need to sell, because remember, the Euros and the Copa America is open, so we can't exactly sell players that are out of major tournaments. Teams aren't going to want to buy them. So for me, I feel like it should be delayed, or there should be something in place to kind of understand the teams and the fact that obviously there are 2 major competitions on right now. It's not exactly a fair time to sell players, so I think the Premier League just had to be fair and lenient in that as well, which I'm hoping that they are. But it's just a bloody nightmare, isn't it? Finally, let's talk about the last piece of information that's been put out in social media, again referring back to Craig Hope, what he stated in his article that he believes there's a possibility that Elliot Anderson could go to Nottingham Forest with a Elanga coming over to Newcastle. Surely not again. I don't think that's a good swap, to be honest. I think Anderson's much better than Elanga. Elanga's someone that I don't rate highly. Obviously, Anderson is a homegrown player. He's someone that hasn't progressed as well as Lewis May did last season, but he's still someone that's got a lot of potential, and I'm expecting with a bit of game time to be able to do that now. I know with Tonali come back in, it's going to be his game time limited, so he's not someone that's going to get a lot of time on the pitch, but surely we're not going to swap him for Elanga. Like I do not rate Elanga at all. I don't think he's a good player, and I feel like it's almost a downgrade on us replacing him with Anderson. I just don't think that's a good move for us to make. But again, we'll see what happens. I think we just give the impression out that we're a desperate club when we aren't as desperate as I think things are getting made out to be in social media. I don't think we are that desperate. again, Yankuba Minteh as a player there, we can just sell for the 30 to 40 million pound mark, and we need to sell Wilson at the same time. Those two are going to cover the PSR sale, and I think teams, even though we had to undervalue them, I think teams would buy them. So I don't think we are that desperate. We do have some players now that we can sell that aren't at the Euros and aren't at the Copa America. So I don't think we are as desperate as we made out to be. However, of course, we still do have to make some sales to the PSR regulations. But I personally think, as I said numerous times already, that Newcastle, a bit of a conspiracy, I think, from us. I think we are intentionally misleading journalists. I think we are intentionally putting information out there that basically make ourselves look way worse than we actually are. We are not this bad. We are never ever going to do some of the things that we're going to do getting made out of doing social media, and that's just my thoughts on it. So hopefully you guys went away from this video feeling a bit less worried. We're not selling Gordon, we're not selling this. Like, do I need to state the obvious? I know articles that came out that state that could have happened, but there's no way Newcastle were ready to sell Gordon. Never ever in a million years do I believe that we're ready to sell Gordon. It makes absolutely no sense. It just isn't something that we would do. Straight away, it's not something that we do. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy watching. Take care, and we'll see you all in the next one.